Intersectionality can be explored by examining how people stress their different affiliations in their life stories. Life story narratives has an important methodological approach in intersectional analysis. So, one critique of the tacit assumptions of knowledge production through life story is necessary but cannot replace investigation of social life. Ramazanoglu and Holland, as gender researchers, need knowledge about what power relations actually impinge on real people's lives. Right. So it is of central concern to intersectionality research, both to take the actual information given in such narratives seriously and to analyze how gender, class, ethnicity, etc. intersect in the discursive construction of meaning. Furthermore, we stress that producing knowledge about intersectionality from life story narratives is not antithetical to an analytical awareness of social structures. Right. So the project is rooted in a particular locality. One of the main themes of the life story narratives is belonging to places, which is not only about the feelings of belonging to Aalborg East, but also about changing and multiple belongings to different places in a life history perspective. The conceptual metaphors of roots and routes to frame the relationship between mobility and belonging to places and argue that there are both roots and routes in people's lives, and that the dynamic between movement, voluntary or forced, security and continuity is central to the belongings that frame people's lives. Everyday life as an important theme. So one of the methodological questions addressed in the literature on intersectionality has been how to produce knowledge about processes where gender, class, and ethnicity mutually constitute each other in a non-additive way. To some degree, this problem of non-additivity is a desk problem. The social world is not neatly divided into class, gender, ethnicity, etc. Although the division of academic labor into specialized discrete disciplines might lead one to think so. One way to circumvent the problem of non-additivity could also be to focus on everyday life. Everyday lives are rarely, if ever, separated into processes related to gender, processes related to ethnicity, and processes related to class. On the contrary, everyday life is a melting pot, to start sentence, and it must be seen as a condensation of social processes, interactions, and positions where intersecting categories are inextricably linked. Now, another methodological argument for using everyday life as a point of departure in intersectional analysis is that it makes it possible to ask about categories such as gender, class, and ethnicity indirectly and not as abstract categories. Now, gender researchers have pondered over how to ask about gender without reproducing gender stereotypes. Likewise, it is difficult to ask about class, which today is often euphemized, or especially the working class, associated with negative rather than positive identifications. The challenge of reproducing categories can be met by addressing by addressing concrete phenomena from everyday life. One way to do this can be to analyze face-to-face interactions and everyday processes. For this purpose, we find the concept of respectability useful. British socialist Beverly Skeggs helped in this regard through an analysis of English working class women, show that respectability is an important symbolic marker in terms of connecting with dominant norms in everyday life. Respectability involves behaving properly and disidentifying from groups that are perceived as less respectable. Respectability can therefore be a relevant concept in analyzing processes of social relations, belonging, and identity, and the intersection between gender and class is often rooted in perceptions and praxis in relation to respectability. The analysis above illustrates the ways in which addressing respectability as an aspect of everyday life produces knowledge about intersectionality. Sorry for that. Now, good questions as key to intersectional methodology. There are two key points to which researchers should attend in constructing questions about intersectionality. First, questions about intersectionality should focus on meaningful constructs such as stress, prejudice, discrimination, rather than relying on demographic questions alone. Second, questions should be intersectional in design. That is, they ought to tap the interdependence and mutuality of identities rather than imply that identities are independent, separate, and able to be ranked. Right. So, analyzing intersectional data. In analyzing intersectional data, two issues stand prominently. Firstly, how to handle intersectionality data that are more implicit than explicit, and two, the additive assumption implicit in both qualitative and quantitative analytical strategies. An initial analytical strategy is to regard individual accounts as individual experiences. Intersectionality research demands that researchers who employ an intersectionality perspective broaden their analytical scope beyond the collected data to become intimately acquainted, if they are not already, with with the socio-historical realities of historically oppressed groups. In so doing, the intersectionality researcher must forego disciplinary myopia and seek out knowledge about participants' experiences, employing the insights of other fields of study, including economics, legal studies, history, women's studies, and ethnic studies, to name just a few. The final stage of analysis examines any contradictions or tensions relevant to these intersections. Quadras and Uttal concede that Uttal, I don't know the name, how to pronounce it. Quadras and Uttal concede that isolating the meaning of each identity is an essential analytical step to understand intersectionality in qualitative research. Thus, the researcher must analyze each structural inequality separately as well as simultaneously. And so, finally, that's about the video. And I will be posting a simpler version of what these slides want to say. So, if you want that, just comment down below. That's all for the video.